Now, y'all know how I feel about South Africa. Y'all know how I feel about my South African brothers and sisters. You hear me talk a lot about Tanzania, obviously, because I've been living in Tanzania for the last 2 years. My time in Kenya was different. And in this video, it's going to be a little controversial because, quite frankly, Nairobi has three verticals, three specific points about it that make it a contender for the capital of Africa. Is Nairobi the capital of Africa? Now, obviously, it's not. Geographically, there is no such thing as the capital of Africa, but Nairobi, though, Nairobi has some major developmental aspects, economical advantages that seemingly so far no other country has. And y'all know how I feel about South Africa, right? So don't come for me because I love South Africa and I look forward to spending more time in Kenya. But specifically in this video, I'm going to talk about why Nairobi is known around the world as the capital of Africa. So welcome to the channel. My name is Ashley. On my channel, Ashley in Africa, I talk about my experience living, moving, and doing business here on the continent. I've been living in Tanzania for 2 years, preparing to move my family to South Africa, and I share my experience of love, motherhood, and entrepreneurship. I'm also the creator of Africa Investors Academy, a community of entrepreneurs, aspiring entrepreneurs, and investors that are building businesses, expanding businesses, and investing in businesses and projects here on the continent of Africa. So if that sounds interesting to you, like this video, subscribe to the channel, and enjoy it. Share it with someone else who could find value in it. So I just got back from Kenya. I went to Nairobi, Mombasa, and Diani. It was a quick trip. And as you can see, I'm doing something a little different. I am outside at a resort. My kids are swimming. So, I'm bikini bathing suit out. So good thing this is all kind of, modestly covered. So you may hear some wind. It's windy. The camera's shaking. But my girls are out of school for holiday, and I want to make sure that I talk about my experience in Kenya because, it was amazing. In this video, I want to talk about the 3 pillars that I noticed and did some research on that really set Nairobi apart from any other African city on the continent. So these 3 things, I'm going to share my perspectives and the things that I did research on that I honestly align with, right? So if you're interested, let's get into it. I have my notes. So Kenya has the 3 things that really create a driving economy. It has the talent, it has the technology, and it has the tourism, right? So there are a couple other things that you can kind of consider when looking at a growing economy: communities, careers, culture. Those are some of the 3 C's. The 3 T's, though: technology, tourism, and talent. And while I do believe that there are other countries, other cities on the continent that have these aspects, the way in which Nairobi, Kenya has really pushed these forward in its economic development are what set it aside from several of the other countries on the continent of Africa. So the first thing, let's get into talent, because I do believe that talent is everywhere on this continent, but opportunity is not. And so the way in which Kenya, Nairobi specifically, has enriched its talent and created an infrastructure around it are in like these 5 major areas, right? So number 1, growing industry, right? There are growing industries around manufacturing, logistics, obviously technology. The startup community is huge. East Africa, the conglomerate of the EAC, is very strong, and I can't wait to share more content around the EAC, because what the EAC is doing in community, in conjunction with minerals, agriculture, Web3, tourism, it's magnificent. In Kenya, Nairobi specifically is really leading the charge of the EAC, and it is the largest economy of the EAC. Oh, the wind is blowing. I hope it's not too distracting, y'all. And also, it's the largest economy in the EAC, but the seventh largest economy on the continent based on GDP, right? So I heard about iHub, which is one of the most popular and largest incubators. Google and Microsoft have invested, in the tech startups in this space, and there are other ones. There are several, and I actually noticed Microsoft there, and I understand that Google is there as well. And I believe it's said that the increase of funding of these Western companies has grown dramatically. The last statistic of data that was taken around money was like $147 million invested in the tech sector. And this was like back in 2019. So I'm sure that has grown, if not substantially, especially since we've entered into this global economy, work from anywhere economy. The talent that is in Kenya is not only innovative, but they are a part of a community of Africans where the problem solving for this next generation of leadership, this next generation of technology and Web3, it's a huge, like untapped resource here on the continent, but specifically in Nairobi, Kenya. So, in 2018, it was 200 million, right? So it's been growing. I think the first statistic that I saw was 92 million, 93 million. It has since from then gone up to 200 million in 2018. So Black developers, African developers specifically on the continent, are getting money. African startups are getting money. And while this money is coming from VC firms and corporations based in the West that don't necessarily understand the problem solving that's necessary on the continent, the ways of working, the cultural differences, I think this is going to balance out over time, especially as the West takes heed and starts to actually bring in some of this African talent into their headquarters, into their offices, to be able to create a connection around the way the money and the VC environment is not sustainable and also is not culturally in alignment with the creators here on the continent, but still a huge opportunity. I also learned about Lions Light. So started by a young man, a young Maasai, Richard Turere, I hope I'm pronouncing it right, where he created this technology to help protect his family and his community from lions. And so, this was a really cute and fun story. And it just showed the level of talent that is available and that is rich and like really solving relative problems for, the Kenyan, the African communities at large. Last and absolutely not least, one of the most, the strongest pillars of Kenyan talent, Mr. Mwale. Mr. Mwale, somebody that I was introduced through watching some content of Wode Maya and Miss Trudy, the Kenyan billionaire that is building a city in a village of Kenya. His story is just amazing, and I'm sure we didn't even get half of it in a 20-minute, 30-minute, 40-minute video, and the multiple videos that have been shared here on YouTube. But just a little thing about Mr. Mwale is he, joined the military in Kenya. He created some technology, and that technology created some conflicts for him. And he ended up going to multiple countries on the continent of Africa for asylum, eventually ending up in the US for political asylum. And then he invented a two-step authentication system that we all use today. Yes. But before that, he was homeless in the US, created this technology, sold it to some really big, banks, including, I think, Bank of America was one of them, and JP Morgan. And he's helping millions of Americans today, millions of people all over the world, sold that technology and now is building a community in Kenya with the Kenyan people, eliminating the idea of gentrification, creating jobs, creating income opportunities, giving world-class healthcare to people in need for free, developing a community where the people are to be a part of that community. I mean, I'm just so excited about what is happening in the Kenya community with Mr. Mwale and what he is doing, because it's a true testament to the talent that is in the community of Kenya, the Kenyans, and how they are actually taking hold of their talent, taking hold of their skill set and creating change. So shout out to Kenyans. Y'all are doing it. Y'all are definitely doing it. It's just amazing to hear and to see inspiring stories where people are taking their future into their own hands. They're not waiting for the government. They're not waiting for other people to solve their problems. They're doing it with their own resources, and shout out to Kenyans, the talent of Kenya for that. The next thing, the next pillar around why Kenya, specifically Nairobi, is, coming for that spot as the capital of Africa is the tech. Kenya is considered, the leading technology and innovation hub of Africa. And I kind of thought it was different. I thought it was Johannesburg, but I understand Johannesburg is more of a financial capital of the continent, right? That's where a lot of the banks are. It's a lot of where the foreign investment it's pure capital is in Johannesburg. But Kenya, specifically Nairobi, is where the leading technology and innovation around technology is happening. So two separate things, right? But Kenya takes that spot around leading innovation and technology. And, so the next thing, connectivity. All Kenyan citizens have access to internet, fast internet, affordable internet, and at many places free internet. So when I was moving around, my first few days there, my drivers were like, get Wi-Fi. Wherever you are, get on the free Wi-Fi. It is available. You don't have to tap into your data. Get the Wi-Fi. And I was surprised, even driving from Nairobi to Mombasa, there was nothing, but you knew there were cell towers because there was full power. There was full power. And so that access, that ability to have that level of connectivity everywhere is huge. And it also is a way for the citizens to have access to information, right? So they're able to surf the internet, not only to watch, entertainment, but to really get access to what is happening around the world. And it's huge, especially as we go into this time of a global economy. Geopolitics, the things that are happening around the world are so important, especially as the uprising of Africa is happening, right? Huge. So the connectivity is a huge part of how Nairobi is doing it right. The next thing, the first mobile money app, the M-Pesa app, was created in Kenya. 70% of the population is using mobile money technology. And this is huge because traditional banking just isn't working anymore. We're seeing it now with the global kind of disruption of the, reserve currency. Yes. Okay, then you can get in the small pool if you're going to take off your floaties.
No.
Well, I said that. That's what I said. So if you want to get up, take off your floaties, you can go in the small pool.
No.
Okay.
I'm going to take off the
You're going to get in timeout and you're not going to go swimming.
I want to swim.
Well, you wear your floaties or you get in the small pool. Okay. Then wear your floaties. Thank you. Yeah, so, what we're seeing with the petrodollar and the decline of its value and how countries that rely upon that petrodollar exchange, they're struggling, right? And the banks are a part of that. And so where you also have a large population of many people on the continent underbanked, they're not banking. And they probably won't bank with the use of mobile money platforms. If you have a phone, you have access to trading, saving, sharing, sending money. And this app, mobile money, and the way that it's used around the continent is an innovative and necessary way of trade going into this next century. So that technology was created. I use it every day. I use it to pay my bills. I use it to buy things. I use it every day. So shout out to Kenyans for the creation of the mobile money app, M-Pesa. Huge innovation, huge technology that is really changing the landscape of the continent of Africa every day. This next project that I've learned about, Kanza Technopoli, it seems to be a new city that's being built with a focus on tech, and its goal is to attract and support the growing tech hub. This is an interesting, city. There's been some ground broken, and who knows, right? After learning more about Mr. Mwale and his city and the way he built it around the people, which you need to have city development, it'll be interesting to see, right? I think there is a huge opportunity to attract world-class talent from all over the world to the country of Kenya. But I'll be interested in seeing kind of the development of this technology hub. And, it's a very aggressive, but also, what's the word I'm looking for? Aspirational. It's an aspirational venture. And, shout out to those that came up with it. And I really hope that it's successful. But I love, again, what Mr. Mwale is doing, and, the fact that he is a Kenyan man who came and solved the problem with his knowledge of his people, right? It seems like Kanza Technopoli is something that is, surrounded by venture and foreign, interests. But still, who else is doing this, right? Building $1 trillion city. So shout out Kenya. And then the last thing is this development of a large-scale telecommunications infrastructure. There is this efficient and affordable information and communication platform that, is the prerequisite essentially for economic growth. So the fact that you have over 90% of the population of Kenya with access to telecommunications, to phones, and this is the statistic that I heard. So if I'm wrong, please correct me, but that seems like, that's amazing, right? The fact that people can communicate with each other is a huge part of economic development, a huge part of trading, a huge part of information sharing. And so with that, you can only see that is definitely foundational for growth. So what I understand is that this has helped to, create an environment for business that can be integrated from, the village to the city, from the village to the ports. There are technological advancements being shared through this level of communication, communicating the new market dynamics and new trends, so people are able to connect and share this information in the country, which is leading to economic development. So super dope. And the last pillar, but absolutely not the least, of course, is tourism. Nairobi is the only capital city in the world with a national park. We're driving on this highway. On the left, we see antelope, giraffe, and on the right, we see a skyline. How dope is that? 5-star resorts, 5-star restaurants through Nairobi and Mombasa and Diani and Matatu, Kilifi, and the sector is growing. So tourism is huge in the country of Kenya, but Nairobi specifically is a world-class destination for tourism. You can have all of these experiences in the city of Nairobi. The Nairobi National Park has the big five: the elephant, rhino, lion, leopard, and buffalo. And I also learned that the ocean, right, the Indian, what I like to call African Ocean, has the big five of the ocean: the humpback whale, the great white shark, the orca, which we know as killer whale, and the giant manta ray, and the tiger shark. So these are considered the big five of the ocean. So they've got the big five of the ocean and the big five of the land. And so for animal lovers, like, what else is there, right? Spas, amazing. There are, and again, some opportunity for that as well. But food was amazing. Hotel accommodations, everything, infrastructure. So super rich for tourism. Mount Kenya is also the second tallest peak in the world, which the country was named after. So for hikers and people that love mountain and love spending time at the mountain, I'm one of those. Great, place to visit. And there were so many other parts of Kenya that I've been, learning from the comments, from the content that I'm sharing, that I cannot wait to visit. I know that Kenya is more than Nairobi, Mombasa, and Diani. But there are beautiful parts of Kenya that I cannot wait to visit. When we learn about a new country, we also get an access to tap into ourselves. Like, when you can connect with nature, you can connect with yourself, reconnect with yourself, tapping into that creativity. And that's where ideas are born, right? So I read this article, who knows if it's true, but I believe it's true, that the former vice president of development of AI for Apple had a visit to Kenya and learned some Swahili. And the app, the artificial intelligence application known as Siri, a Kenyan word or Swahili word known as secret, and obviously Safari known as journey, were the names that he used when he titled the web browser of Safari and the artificial intelligence tool Siri. Are you surprised? I guess you can't trademark language, but I'm sure they figured out a way to trademark it. And we all know the story of, Lion King and the way in which these corporations have been inspired, let's say, by Africa in so many ways. But this is just, another piece of content to share with continental Africans, diasporans around the world, that Africa is inspiring. Africa is enriched. Africa is all things, luxury included. And specifically, the city of Nairobi has tapped into and created excellence around its talent, its tourism, and its technology to really be perceived by much of the world as the capital of Africa. Let me know how you feel about that, right? Like, do you agree? Do you disagree? And why? I'm open to the conversation. But I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please be sure to like it and share it with someone who would find value in it as well. And until the next time, I'll see you soon.